We definitely have a few creepy and bizarre things to talk about in today's video. For example, this may be the most disturbing story yet involving brain organoids and data centers, and also it seems like we have another missing scientist, but there's also another one that news and media have not really been connecting the dots to. But first, check out this news story coming out of Florida.
This video captured the moment a train in Central Florida grazed a school bus filled with children. This happened last Thursday. Police say the driver ignored a train warning signal crossing the tracks and narrowly avoided a serious collision. Authorities say the bus was 6 inches away from disaster.
Absolutely insane. This school bus driver in Florida, Yvonne Hampton, even with all these flashing lights going off and these warning signs, still decides to slowly cross the tracks as a train is coming with 29 kids on board. And in Florida, like I'm sure everywhere else, I don't know, not all the train tracks have active crossing gates like in rural areas. As of right now, the bus driver is being charged with nearly 30 counts of child neglect as well as reckless driving, but the kids who were on the bus were interviewed and they were saying that she stopped on the tracks completely and didn't move. The kids were yelling to her train, and then eventually she decided to move. Absolute insanity. Now she's saying in her defense that a car was stopped in front of her, that's why she couldn't move. And that's true, you can see that on camera, but it looks like she thought to beat the train, she would just go ahead and follow this car over the tracks with all these warnings going off about an incoming train, and the car would keep going, but it did not, it stopped. So she put all her faith in the car in front of her, so at the end of the day, it still does not look good for her. But really quick, talking about news involving schools, this school board member was caught on camera in front of the rest of the school board telling a high school student this.
Something we continue to do in our pre-K 5s, if that were the case, as it is currently done in our pre-K 8s. Right.
God, you're hot. You know that? Dang. Where do you go to school at?
I go Crockett.
All right.
This took place in Tennessee. Now the rest of the school board around him found this funny, but the parents did not. One of the parents actually went there saying this.
I'm asking a question, you don't have to answer, but let's just say if you were really offended by that, just raise your hand. If it doesn't offend you, keep your hand down. Do you see what I'm saying here, guys? How would you like your kid talked to like that? We have to worry about our kids getting caught up in schools and all this other stuff, right? But what we don't need to be worrying about is the comments of a man to a minor.
Good dad.
Would you want that kid, would you want your kid around that guy without a camera around? I wouldn't. And I'm astonished by every single person here. I'm going to tell you straight up, if this guy still has a job here soon, I'm going to do whatever I can to raise as much money as I can to get every single one of y'all out of here. No joke. And the rest of the team is with me. We're going to be down here every school meeting and everything. That's unacceptable, man. And look at your face, you don't even care. This is your community that you're supposed to be serving. Look at the distraction. You put us on the map nationally, embarrassed us. And you don't even have the backbone just to walk off, dude.
He's 100% right, but here's the thing. They should be getting rid of all of them, not just that man that did that, but all of them, because it seemed like all of them condoned it, just laughing it off. And not a one of them up there raised their hands when they were asked the question, were they offended by that? This is scary. That is bad. There is nothing I can talk about paranormal wise that is as scary as the reality that we are currently living in. If this individual is that comfortable saying this to I believe this girl is either 15 or 17, either way, still considered a minor in Tennessee, what do you think this filth is doing behind closed doors? The rest of the school board should have instantly requested his removal and investigated this man, but no, they don't, because they just go ahead and sweep it off and laugh it off because they were not offended.
Now, we spoke to Irvin today and asked him what led up to him making the comment. He says the board had been discussing the restructuring of schools and that he was impressed by the students' comments.
I had a student board member beside me and we was talking, and she got up and was asking questions and just thoroughly impressed me and the other board members. She was a top-notch student board member, and she was asking real smart questions, and I reached over and I touched her on the shoulder and I said, "You're hot. You're good. You're one of the best I've seen." I didn't mean nothing by it. She was on fire. She asked good questions, and I was bragging about her.
Now that was his defense, but surprise, surprise, back in 2009, Keith Irwin made a lewd juvenile gesture of a sexual nature in front of students and teachers at David Crockett High School, according to records obtained by News 5. There was also claims he harassed a teacher. Now he admits to making the lewd gesture and profanity in front of students, but denies the harassment. He said in his defense he was just trying to be 18 again. The school voted and they decided to ban him off school property except for public events. Then yet, for whatever reason, years later, in the same exact state, he becomes a school board member. But moving on, people are talking about this very interesting article involving Sam Alternative Man. The article from the New Yorker, which is titled, "Sam Altman May Control Our Future, Can He Be Trusted?" And spoiler alert, no he cannot. It goes on to say new interviews and closely guarded documents shed light on the persistent doubts about the head of OpenAI. So the article pretty much goes into the ins and outs and behind the scenes of OpenAI, but people are really talking about this part of the article right here, where it goes on to say, in May, the administration rescinded Biden's export, and they're talking about the Trump administration, restrictions on AI technology. Altman and Trump traveled to the Saudi royal court to meet with bin Salman. Around the same time, the Saudis advertised the launch of a giant state-backed AI firm in the kingdom with billions to spend on international partnerships. About a week later, Altman laid out a plan for Stargate to expand into the UAE. The company plans to build a data center campus in Abu Dhabi, which is 7 times larger than Central Park and consumes roughly as much electrical power as the city of Miami. That's really insane, but this gets even crazier because the article goes on to quote a former OpenAI executive. The truth of this is we're building portals from which we're genuinely summoning aliens. The portals currently exist in the United States and China, and Sam has added one in the Middle East. He went on, I think it's just like wildly important to get how scary that should be. It's the most reckless thing that has been done. So let's get the obvious out of the way first, because it's very possible this is just a disgruntled former executive saying just about anything, blowing all types of smoke. But we have heard multiple times from these AI tech giants that they are summoning demons with AI, like for example this most famous clip from Elon Musk.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure you can control the demon. Didn't work out.
We heard this from Geordie Rose, Mark Zuckerberg, multiple OpenAI executives. This is not the only one. What is the data inside these data centers? We're constantly being told that these investors who are putting billions and billions of dollars in these data centers, they're not turning a profit, they're not making any money. They're popping up everywhere. This is just a map of them in 2025 alone. They're destroying the lands, taking up all the resources. Utility bills are getting higher and higher. There's absolutely no benefit, yet we're told we need them, a lot of them. We're always pretty much lied to about everything, so when we're being told these are just to power AI, the AI that we use, maybe there is indeed something else going on that we're not being told. Maybe these are gateways or batteries for gateways for things to cross over. The most powerful AI program that we're being told anyway to exist, which is called Stargate. What is a Stargate? A portal. But interestingly enough, now we're being told that they're going to go ahead and use human brain cells to power AI data centers. What's going on here? Now, I have spoken about this company once before called Cortical Labs. What they would do, they would take these things called brain organoids or brain cells, which by almost all accounts, people researching into these brain organoids are finding out that they're sentient. They have some form of consciousness. This company has these brain organoids doing all types of things, anywhere from powering AI to believing they're a butterfly to being trapped in hell playing a game of Doom. Matter of fact, what is even more disturbing, and reading this article from Futurism.com, which was published on March 21st, the staff at this new data center powered by human brain cells need to swap out cerebrospinal fluid every day. Like, what are we talking about here? Can you imagine the reality that CERN's going to put us into next? It cannot get any more bizarre than this. The article goes on to say that, and quoting the CEO and founder of Cortical Labs, we remove the fluid every 24 hours. The CEO described how technicians carefully manage the mixture of gases that shroud the computers. The company adds nitrogen and carbon dioxide, so the atmosphere is made of 5% oxygen, a quarter of what occurs naturally on Earth, which is apparently the optimal level for computerized neurons to work in. So basically, it's a living data center, and I wouldn't doubt one bit this is what's been going on for quite some time now, and nobody's talking about it, that humans are the data in these data centers powering or feeding whatever. They're also building 2 other data centers in Melbourne, Australia and Singapore, but again, I wouldn't doubt one bit that these other companies are doing this as well. Reading this article right here, it says, Cortical Labs is one of a few companies developing biological computers consisting of neuronal cells wired up to microelectrode arrays that can stimulate and measure the response of cells when fed data. Really just makes you wonder who these other companies are. Cortical Labs is just more upfront with it, but can you imagine somebody like Sam Alternative Man coming out and saying that his data centers are powered by human cells? Really wouldn't go over too well for somebody like Sam Altman. So yeah, one could see humans are the data inside these data centers all along. Wild times. Maybe they're using some of these missing scientists' brain cells to power these data centers. That's a really creepy thought. But moving on, news has come out that more scientists have gone missing. Before I go ahead and talk about this scientist right here, Michael David Hicks, who would make the 9th, I do want to go ahead and talk about this scientist right here, 45-year-old Jason Thomas, who news and media are not including with these other scientists that have disappeared or ended up deceased under mysterious circumstances. And the reason behind that, they believe he disappeared due to depression, and that's understandable given the history, which I will get into, but he also shares something in common with these other scientists that have vanished. Jason, like all these other missing scientists, just walked away from his home on foot, never drove away in his car, and this is the same circumstance with all of them. So Jason's an only child. He lost his mother while she was in hospice care. He was at her bedside. Then an hour later, while talking to his father collapsed of a heart attack in his arms. So that can definitely do something to somebody, losing one parent and then instantly losing the next. That could cause them to go into a deep depression. But after some time had passed, on December 12th, he and his wife went on their first social outing after his parents had passed away. She noticed he was really quiet, but later on, everything seemed normal. He took care of their dogs, he went to the mailbox, and after he was spotted at the mailbox, he vanished. One can definitely chalk this up to his mental state, him being depressed, but what's also the same exact circumstance like with all these other scientists is that he left without his phone, his wallet, and they found his Apple Watch inside the mailbox that he had opened earlier that night. And again, this is the same exact thing. They all leave their phones behind, any identification and their watches. In the case of Melissa Cassius, when they found her phone, it was completely wiped clean. It was basically factory restored. The only scientist to have their phone with them as they were walking on foot was Monica Reza, who was working under General William McCaslin. When people asked the authorities to track her last location, to ping her last location, they said, no, we're not going to go ahead and release that information. What? Continue to read the article. It says the couple's Ring doorbell indicated that Thomas left the home 7 minutes before midnight, after which Bartoli called her husband multiple times. She eventually fell back asleep but woke up to find her husband had not returned. She told authorities that this wasn't like him. So police began to canvass the area with several dogs and drones deployed in the search. Another Ring football camera captured Thomas as he crossed the street near a set of train tracks, but that was it. That was the last known sighting of Thomas. You know what this eerily reminds me of? These scientists leaving their home on foot and then vanishing. This eerily reminds me of that movie Weapons, with those kids leaving their home on foot around the same time, then vanishing, and come to find out it was all due to a witch. Hollywood never fails with their predictive programming. The most recent update is that the police had pulled a body from a Massachusetts lake, the Wakefield Lake. They believe it may be Jason Thomas, but as of right now, there has been no conclusion as to who that body belonged to. It should also be important to note that a lot of these missing scientists have also worked with NASA, including General McCaslin, and it looks like Jason Thomas happens to be no different because he worked with a company called Novartis, and Novartis worked with NASA on multiple research initiatives, particularly focusing on studies aboard the International Space Station to advance pharmaceutical research. And if you've seen my other videos on these scientists, it seems like all roads connect right back to either NASA or plasma. But there was another research scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory who they are also saying may have passed under mysterious circumstances, Michael David Hicks, who also shares something interesting in common with another NASA scientist who passed away under mysterious circumstances, Frank Mywald. Hicks passed away on July 30th, 2023 at the age of 59, but the cause of his passing was never made public, and no record of an autopsy being performed could be found. In the case of NASA scientist Frank Mywald, he reportedly passed away on July 4th, 2024 at the age of 61, and also his cause of passing was never made public, and officials confirmed that an autopsy was also never performed. Maybe these people never really passed away and they're just saying they did, and they're keeping them somewhere, maybe underground, or like I said previously, a data center. Again, who really knows? Hicks was involved with the DART project, NASA's test to see if humans could deflect dangerous asteroids away from Earth. He also worked on the Deep Space One mission, which tested new spacecraft technology that flew by a comet in 2001. But again, at the end of the day, who really knows what they were truly working on or working with? They go on to say that 3 of the missing or deceased scientists had close ties to Hicks, as all of them worked at the Jet Propulsion Lab or participated in NASA missions there. Monica Reza was Jet Propulsion Laboratory's new director of Materials Processing Group, and again, she vanished without a trace on June 2025, and she worked directly under General McCaslin. And General William McCaslin, who worked directly with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, oversaw her work and research. The Daily Mail reached out to NASA and also the scientists' friends and colleagues for a comment on the circumstances surrounding Hicks' passing, and it goes on to say that strangely, a series of online obituaries dedicated to Hicks did not mention any health issues before the 59-year-old's passing, which appeared to happen suddenly, roughly 1 year after leaving NASA JPL. The article talks about how this is very similar to Frank Mywald, and that authorities, NASA, and JPL have not commented on the passings of Mywald or Hicks. And I don't expect NASA to ever tell the truth of what they're actually doing or working on. They're a very ritualistic organization with ties that go directly back to Jack Parsons, one of the co-founders of Jet Propulsion's laboratory and the student of Aleister Crowley, summoning all types of things over. But moving on, I do want to go ahead and see what others are talking about. This next video comes from Dead Estate Band talking about data centers.
Hey America. Hey America. So today I delivered a load to a data center in South Carolina. And I'm going to tell you something about that data center that I seen. It looks like a prison. Alright, listen to me. There's nothing but solid concrete walls and ventilation. I don't know why they would need something built like this for a data center, but I'm telling you now that these data centers have their own electric substations. I'm talking about with power cords, hey, to keep some stuff running. All right? But in all actuality, I'm telling you, these data centers look like encampments, concrete prisons. Now, I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Maybe they're not. Maybe they really are data centers. But I'm looking at data centers that they're going to have computers that hold data, and these places are the size of 10 Walmarts. All right? Like, how many servers must you have to where these are coming up all around the country? One of these data centers look like it should be able to hold the information of everyone in this country 100 times over. But they're popping up everywhere. Everywhere. Okay? And I'm telling y'all, I've seen some jails, I've seen some prisons. Listen to me. I don't think these no data centers. I'm honestly feeling like there's gonna come a time where some of us have to put up, shut up, or be locked up. So America and Americans, y'all better stay frosty and keep your eyes open. We know the vast majority of you are gonna fall in place. But some of us really enjoy our freedom. And some of us will fight for it. Hey America, So today I deliver.
Given the fact that we now know that there are sentient things, these brain organoids that are powering these data centers, it's not too outside the realm of possibility that we are looking at actual conscious prisons. Data centers, for the most part, even look like a prison.
We have an odd video for you today, and this was actually captured by a man named Mike Parker. He was driving down a rural road when he saw something that he initially thought was a UFO. But here's the thing, he's driven down this road many times and never has he seen this before. It looks like a gigantic dome. More than likely it's a tarp, but what is it covering? He doesn't know. And also this land, it's not owned by farmers or ranchers. It's actually U.S. agricultural restricted land. So what are they covering up? Take a look at this, comment below, tell me what you think.
That video came from the paranormal chick. Now, at first, I thought this might have been some kind of landfill, but given the fact that he said he drives past this area every so often and he did not notice anything like this before, I really have no idea what could be hidden under this thing or where this thing came from.
This UFO photo is going to be one of the best UFO photos you will ever see, and this has never ever been debunked. It's from 1971 near Lake Cote in Costa Rica, and this is a mapping survey by Costa Rica's National Geographic Institute for hydroelectric project near the Arenal volcano. Okay, so this is where you're seeing UFOs near volcanoes. Where have you heard that one before and seen? So this is from a photographer called Sergio with a heavy automated mapping camera on a plane flying at 10,000 foot, 3,000 meters. Photo snapped every 13 to 20 seconds. The metallic disc-shaped object appeared in only one frame around 8:25 a.m. over or near the lake surface. It shows up nowhere in the frames before and after, suggesting rapid movement, and it only appeared in this one frame. And where have you heard that before, with these things travelling at super fast speeds and only being captured per frame? I've captured some myself as well. And the object on the mapping frame is estimated to be between 120 to 220 feet, 36 to 76 meters in diameter, which is pretty large, okay? Looks like a shiny dome-like disc with possible central features. Now, the object itself kind of has this very flat edge, and then it kind of goes up into this traditional Umbro shape, kind of like your traditional flying saucer, and it dips down again, and it's very metallic, clean, and it has a reflective surface, as you can see here. Now, the object appeared only in one frame out of a sequence taken every 13 to 20 seconds and wasn't seen by the crew during the flight. Official government mapping survey with a professional large format camera, a strong chain of custody, right? So this kind of gives it even more credence that this object is there and anomalous, right? And no matching conventional aircraft, balloon, bird, or known artifacts fit the size, shape, or sudden appearance, and this has never been explained, and it's still under the classification of a UFO/UAP, right? There we have it. And it's your traditional saucer shape, baby. Okay? Beautiful. And these are being seen more so, again, recently. And when it comes to these sort of images as well, when people are filming, you could be filming the sky and then people see something zip past in one frame because there are objects travelling at ridiculous speeds in the sky. And people catch this stuff all the flipping time, mate. Right? There we have it.
The Germans back in the 1930s, 1940s were creating a lot of tech that looked like this. And after World War II, a lot of German scientists went over to the United States and became the United States scientists under Operation Paperclip. And I wouldn't doubt one bit what interstellar discussion is showing us there is nothing more than man-made technology.
If you ever have the feeling that you're not alone, don't ignore that feeling because you're probably right. This photo was taken by a security camera in a woman's kitchen. She said her husband worked night shifts, and she was usually alone at night. And every night she had the unmistakable feeling of not being alone in her own home. Now, of course, a lot of people get that feeling, almost a paranoid feeling, like there's something right behind you. But in her case, there was. She said she had just walked through the kitchen, and it felt like somebody was walking right behind her, so instead of turning the light off like she planned on doing, she left it on. And in the last 2 frames of her security footage, this thing was standing in the hallway outside of the kitchen. Now, I know y'all have had that feeling before. You go downstairs, it's dark down there, and you're running up the stairs because it feels like somebody is right behind you. Well, she had that feeling, and she wasn't wrong. Now, I don't see any distinct features on this shadow person, and it almost looks like there's a smaller one standing next to it. What would you do if you caught this on your security?
That video came from Whoa That's Strange, and this one definitely creeped me out because it looked like whatever this thing is has a skull for a face. But not just that, you can also see this little thing right next to it as well. Yeah, that to me would definitely mean time to move.
Woman named Bonita was home alone while her husband was at work. As she sat watching TV in the living room, she suddenly heard a loud, terrifying noise coming from the kitchen. At that exact moment, the kitchen security camera captured something chilling, something she couldn't explain. Suddenly, the stove shook uncontrollably before lifting up and crashing down. But just seconds before, a dark, semi-transparent figure had passed quickly on the opposite side. Bonita insists that even if the stove had malfunctioned, there is no way it could have shaken like that on its own. Because of this, many believe that an unseen, invisible entity may have been responsible for destroying it, and the mysterious figure that appeared might be related to what happened. So, what do you think?
When it comes to this video, the only thing I can think of is that what went past really quick was a giant dog, its body or leg wrapped around the cord, and it was taking I believe this was an oven with it, but that would have to be a very powerful dog to do all that. Because if that's an oven, which it looks like, that would be pretty heavy to just toss around like that if that was a dog dragging the cord.
A lot of people believe in something called the Dogman. Now, the Dogman was first seen in Michigan, and this is sort of a hot spot for sightings. The Dogman is a dog-like version of Bigfoot. Now, there was a story out of northern Michigan. There was this boy who said that him, his brother, and his father, every couple weeks, they would go out to this property that his father owned, and they would gather firewood. And he said his dad had this big trailer that they would fill all the way to the top. And when it was full, they would leave. Well, this particular night, him and his brother and his father, they go to this spot in the middle of their property and they start chopping wood. And it started to get dark, but by this time they had only filled up half the trailer. But he said his father started to get really nervous. And all of a sudden he tells him and his brother, I want you to get in the car immediately. Don't look back. Don't say anything. Get in the car, lock the doors, and be quiet. And so he started, to kind of pick up his axe and pick up some of the tools. And his dad's like, no, just leave them. Take your brother, run to the front of the car, get inside and lock the door. So he just grabs his brother and they started running to the front of this truck. As they're running, he said he kind of glanced over and he could see shadows of something moving through the woods, kind of following them. So him and his brothers, they jump in the truck. He locks the doors. And he said, there was just this really bad feeling in the air, like something was going to happen. And he said, all of a sudden, they hear boom, 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 boom. His dad is banging on the window. Let me in the truck. So his dad jumps in the truck and he starts the car or the truck up and they take off. And his dad is just speeding and this trailer is thrashing back and forth, almost getting ready to fall off. And his father doesn't care. And he said, it was strange because normally they wouldn't leave till that trailer was full. And he said, as his father's driving, up this bumpy dirt road, all of a sudden, this crashing sound, like something hits the front of the vehicle. And his father slams on the brakes. And as they look on the hood of this truck, there is a rotten carcass sitting there. Something threw this rotten deer carcass at the front of this vehicle. And he said that's when they heard this loud roar. And as they looked over, they seen what looked like a dog standing on two legs. And so his dad hit the gas and he starts speeding off out of there. And this thing begins to chase them. And it was keeping pace with the vehicle for some time. He said eventually it broke off and it went into the woods. And his father just kept on driving. And they kept asking his father, what was that? What happened? And his father said, just be quiet. Like, you don't need to know. Let's not talk about it. And his father never told him what he had seen that night.
That great video came from True Crime Talk 007, and I do believe that Dogman and a lot of these entities are indeed very real. There's a paranormal aspect to it, but also I do think these are a lot of government-made entities as well, things being released from these deep underground military bases. A lot of these creatures are experiments that have gone either wrong or right in their eyes. They're basically chimeras or human hybrids, again created in the lab. Extremely eerie stuff, but at the end of the day, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.